Hi everyone, Kathie here. I have a new project to share with you, and it is an alternate project using the March 2017 paper pumpkin kit. The tutorial today is on watercoloring and masking. I don't do a lot of watercoloring, so this is my take on how I do it, and just a couple of still shots of the cards that we're going to create today. And here is the items that we're going to be using. So first up is the post-it note, and that post-it note has all the stickies on the one side, and you can get that at Staples or Walmart. And pink pirouette to stamp out the image, and then those two cardstock is from the kit. We're going to cut that in half and use the one side. And those two pieces are 2.5 inches square, and they are watercolor paper by Canson. And here's the stamp set from the kit. We're going to use that cute little bunny ear for the stamping. This is Pink Pirouette and Emerald Envy, but we're going to be using Dapper Denim instead. And you'll see that change later on. And here are the brushes that we're going to be using, the Zig Clean Color Real Brush colors, and also an aqua brush for our watercoloring. So we're going to be stamping first to create our masks, and you're going to need a total of four bunny ears and a circle punch of 1 inch or 1.5 inches fine to create your circle mask there. So first we'll just mask off the one corner there for the center of the flower, and then we'll just stamp around, and then whatever you stamped originally, just mask that off and then stamp over top so that you don't have any intersecting lines from the stamp. Pretty simple masking for this project. And by the way, I know it zipped by pretty quickly. The card base we're using is 4.25 by 11 inches and scored at 5.5. And that was Whisper White, or you can use any white cardstock. We're done the masking, and now we're going to move on to the watercoloring using the Zig Real Clean brushes. And we're just going to lay down the color, and that is in light pink and pink. And we'll hit it with the water brush, and it just blends all the colors together. I am actually laying down a lot of color there, so when you liquefy it, it does come out a lot bolder. But if you want it to look more pastel, then you would just lay down less. I actually tend to have a heavy hand when I color in the first place, and I do like my images to come out bold. And while I was coloring this, I was getting the feeling, or a sinking feeling, that it wasn't coming out the way I wanted, but I did continue on, and I think it was coming to shape. And notice that I'm dabbing off a lot. Once I feel that I have a lot of pigment on my brush and I don't want to spread it to make it, one solid color, I do dab it off on a paper towel. And we're going to define the petals again with the pink. I think it's actually the darker pink, but it's not quite defined enough, so we're going to throw in a purple later on in the video there. So we're just going to color in the center of the flower now. And we're just dabbing along the edge there so we don't make it run too much, and then we'll hit it with the heat gun. And this is Scarlet Red, and I totally gave it a bad case of the measles, and I wasn't too pleased with it, but I think we can salvage it. And I'm just touching it up with the water brush so that I can just soften up the dots. So here's the purple now, and we're just going to give it more detail and really define the petals and the center of the flower. And then here is where you define each petal. You don't need a lot of ink, just quick strokes there, and then we're going to liquefy it, but not too much because you still want to see the line detail. So that way it defines the back petals. Now the center of that flower, it started to dry and I didn't really like how it was kind of running on that one, like the circle part. So I did try to touch it up with my water brush again, but I figured I should just move on and not let it bug me. So now we're just going to fussy cut it out and we're going to place it on one of the panels from the kit. So we're going to cut this down at 3 inches to cut it in half exactly, and then we're going to cut the other one down while we're at the trimming stage here, and then we're just going to raise it up and we're going to put it on that pink, I think it's sugar plum. The color is sweet sugar plum. So we're going to put that on to the pink pirouette panel. And I decided I was going to do my own sentiment instead of pulling out my dies, just to show you that you can get away with just straight handwriting. And then on the other end of the barrel of that marker, just use the fine tip one and then just throw your strokes in there to fix any imperfections. And it'll look pretty half decent. And then my corner chomper just to round up the corners. And then now we're ready to put it on the pink pirouette panel. So a pretty simple card layout. And we'll just raise that sentiment. And the sequence is not from anything, not from the pack that I showed you originally, because the colors didn't go. So use whatever you have in your stash with pinks or greens. It'll be fine. I happen to be using this one. I think it's an in color from another year that's actually no longer available. Pinks and greens will work. And here is the Wink of Stella that I never use, as you can tell, because I opened it incorrectly. But I figured since the card is super simple and plain that it needed something glittery. That is the clear glitter. So just to give it some pizzazz, I suppose. But that's the card, the first card, and we're going to move on to the second card. And we're going to be using the Stampin' Write markers. If you have the Tim Holtz Distress markers, you could use those for this project if you don't have the Zig Clean brushes nor the Stampin' Write markers. So again, we're just going to lay down the pigment for this daisy, and it's going to be a slightly different shade. It's not going to be as pink as the first one because we're using the rose red, which is a very bold pink. So it does come off a bit reddish, but it will lighten up as the image dries. It's looking pretty good, and we're just going to define the petals by using a darker color. And I believe that is the rose red, and the initial color was the melon mambo, if I didn't indicate that earlier. So what do you think about the kit? I was actually excited when I saw the stamp set. I thought there was going to be some die cut bunnies because of the faces and whatnot, but to my disappointment there wasn't one. I'm not trying to knock Paper Pumpkin, but here are my thoughts, and these are just my opinions of the kit, seeing that I have been receiving them for the past year and a bit. I was actually hoping to see some flower images on the cardstock and not that weird camouflage design, which I don't know who was on crack when they decided to go with that. And that camouflage has been on a lot of the kits, so I'm pretty sure that these kits are put together months in advance, but please stop with the camouflage colors. We need some flowers and some bright colors. I think that makes everyone happy. Well, most of us anyway. Okay, so please, one more thing before I move on. Don't bash me for saying these things. I still like Paper Pumpkin, and I find it a challenge to create projects, and I really enjoy bringing the projects to you. All right, so back to the coloring. So we're doing the background in the Tempting Turquoise Blue. And my problem here is that I should have hit it with a heat gun because I threw on the Island Indigo again. I didn't hit it with a heat gun. So that little corner over there on the last two petals were giving me some grief. And as I struggled, I continued to hit it with water and just removing the pigment and then throwing on the marker on there, when the answer was dry it with my heat gun. So finally, there I am, hitting it with the heat gun there and then removing any marks that I've left on there. And it comes off pretty simply. That was my last attempt to get it all under control, and I did have a little bit of bleeding there still, but I figured I better just move on and get to the next step. We're going to do some shading using soft suede just around the center of the flower, just to make it more dimensional. And then to finish off the top part of the flower there, we're going to lay some Island Indigo just to give it some more definition along the edges. All right, so now that that's finally done, we're going to raise that with some dimensionals onto the card panel there. Just going to add some highlights to the petals there with the white signal pen. And mine is, again, not functioning, but I just made do with how it turned out. And anything that I didn't like, I just put the marker over top and any white bits that I didn't like. Okay, so now we're going to put it on a Dapper Denim card panel there, and I just took off a 1/4 inch on the one end and then just centered it onto the card base. Now that Hope sentiment is from the Sunshine Wishes Thinlits, which is 141489. Okay, so my music's coming up, so that's my cue. Time to wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining me, and stay tuned for more Paper Pumpkin alternatives. Thanks for watching. Bye now.